Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you never miss an update. I'm like all over the place today. Today I want to talk a little bit about regulatory affairs and the truth about trying to get into the industry. I'm going to be talking about what entry-level people should be doing to enter the industry and the different options, and also kind of the reality and the shift of regulatory affairs right now. So make sure you stay tuned and watch the entire video. All right, let's get started. So first I want to just jump in and talk a little bit about entry-level positions. Someone actually made a really great comment on one of my other videos talking about how getting into regulatory affairs, specifically in Canada, is really difficult because most people who have a PharmD, PhD, MD, MS, MPH, RAC, well, we already know you can't get an RAC unless you have the years of experience, but they just talked about how you need that extra credential in order to get into an entry-level position. Now, this is true how most people who have an advanced degree are more likely to get into regulatory affairs, just because it's become so exceedingly competitive over the past 5 years, but it doesn't mean it's an absolute. So the advice that I have for people who are interested in getting an entry-level regulatory affairs position would be, for one, to opt into contract positions. So how I first got into regulatory affairs was I was offered a contract role. And what you are as a contractor is you're not the responsibility of the pharmaceutical company, you're actually the responsibility of the consulting firm. So let's say consulting firm ABC, we're just gonna call it ABC, and then Pfizer. Pfizer will reach out to consulting firm ABC and say, hey, I need like a regulatory affairs associate. Consulting firm ABC will go out on LinkedIn, Indeed, Career Builder, ZipRecruiter, all these different job searching platforms, and they will look for candidates who fit the bill of what Pfizer is looking for. Pfizer could say, you know, you can have 2 years of experience related to pharmaceuticals. It doesn't have to be exactly regulatory affairs. You could have been working in a lab. You could have been pharmacovigilance. You could have been quality affairs or quality assurance. You could have been a multitude of things, so long as it related to the scientific industry or pharmaceuticals. So the consulting firm goes out and looks for people and finds Jackie. Let's say Jackie graduated from the University of Southern California. She's previously worked in a lab during her undergrad years, and she's looking for an opportunity to break into the regulatory affairs industry. The consulting firm asks her if they have the right to represent her to Pfizer and submit her resume and present her as a potential candidate. Pfizer looks at her resume and they're like, oh, okay, actually, you know, even though she doesn't have regulatory affairs experience, she's clearly competent. She understands the scientific industry or the pharmaceutical industry. She has a strong scientific background with her bachelor's of science. Let's interview her. Pfizer will interview her, maybe 1 or 2 interview cycles. It's not very extensive as it would be for a full-time employee. And after that, she's hired. Once she's hired, she's an employee of the contracting company. She's not an employee of Pfizer. However, she's integrated into Pfizer's employee ecosystem, where she will report to her Pfizer line manager. She's doing Pfizer work, so on and so forth. Within the contracting realm, it gives people the opportunity who are entry level to break into pharmaceuticals through a different avenue. Contracting roles can be anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I've seen contracts as long as 36 months. And sometimes you'll get a 6-month contract and they'll extend it up to 12 months or 36 months and so on and so forth. So that's one way to break into regulatory affairs, is by looking for contracting opportunities. And by doing that, you need to make sure your resume is uploaded on every job platform and tag it with regulatory affairs so that recruiters know that that's something that you're interested in. Also, guys, I've talked to so many people about their resumes, and it blows my mind how many people don't have a professional objective or, you know, a summary of what you're looking for. It could be 3-4 sentences, but in there you need to say, you're such and such individual or such and such professional seeking regulatory opportunities, so that the recruiter knows what you're looking for and what you're qualified to do. I actually would like to read you guys an objective that I've written for one of my previous clients. Okay, I'm also gonna put the professional profile over here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But the professional profile reads, Proactive and results-driven doctor of pharmacy with experience working in healthcare/pharmaceutical industry, capable of applying regulatory practices and supporting IND, NDA, BLA, CTA, and MAA filings. Do you see how this person doesn't have regulatory affairs experience, but they're saying that they are capable of implementing regulatory practices? That's not a fallacy. You are capable of implementing those regulatory policies. And what an IND is an investigational new drug application, an NDA is a new drug application, a BLA is a biologics license application, a CTA is a clinical trials application, and an MAA is a marketing authorization application. MAAs and CTAs are normally ex-US, and then IND, NDA, and BLA are US. Going on, detail-oriented pharmacist, efficient in organizing and analyzing efficacy and safety data. Self-directed and adaptable healthcare professional with a strong knowledge of patient safety, seeking new dynamic regulatory affairs opportunities. Strengths include strong knowledge of GCP and ICH guidelines, working on programs that assess CD4 cell count of patients, working on cross-functional teams to optimize patient care within clinical setting. Does that not speak to the capabilities of that candidate? If I was a regulatory affairs recruiter, I would immediately call them and be like, yeah, this person's definitely capable of being in a regulatory affairs entry-level role. And this is a person who I wrote their objective where they didn't have any regulatory affairs experience, but they're clearly capable, and I knew that in the initial conversations that I had with them. So those are two of the tips that I wanted to give in terms of how to get into entry level, is looking into those contract roles and also making sure that your resume is optimized to draw in the attention of regulatory affairs recruiters. The third tip that I want to give for getting entry-level regulatory affairs roles is once you have that solid resume detailing and showcasing how you're capable of working in the regulatory affairs environment, would definitely be to just apply to regulatory affairs entry-level jobs online. Just go to the website and submit your resume. Working with recruiters is sometimes better for higher roles such as a senior manager, associate director, so on and so forth, because recruiters get a percentage of whatever your salary is. So let's say for an entry-level role, they're offering $80,000. A recruiter may only get anywhere from maybe like 10 to 30% of what that salary is, and sometimes that's not enough for a recruiter to want to fill that role. Now, it's not, again, an absolute. You can definitely find recruiters who will represent entry-level regulatory people. However, I've seen the industry kind of shift more to the senior level roles for regulatory affairs recruiters, and then go more towards the contract side for entry level. But those are just general tips. Now, the second part of this video, I really want to shift towards how the regulatory affairs industry is evolving. I think it's getting way more attention now than it was 5 or 6 years ago because the pandemic, to be honest with you. A lot of pharmaceutical companies have popped up out of nowhere, developing therapies for COVID and other communicable diseases. Now, I love this because it gives a bunch of people different opportunities to learn about the research and development process and understand how integral and important regulatory affairs professionals are. However, I think it's becoming a little bit saturated with a bunch of PharmDs because they no longer want to work in pharmacies and they want to shift more into the industry, which takes away opportunities from people who have their bachelor's of science or even their master's of science, because it's becoming so saturated with doctorates that people who have other types of degrees who also qualify for those roles aren't being given the opportunity. Now, I've seen this more over the past like 2 or 3 years, especially when CVS and Walgreens started cutting pharmacist salary. When I used to work in a pharmacy back in 2013, I remember my pharmacy manager saying something about her salary being around like $125,000, $130,000, maybe even $150,000 a year. And over the years, the amount that they give pharmacists actually is decreasing. So now I'm hearing that pharmacists working in a pharmacy only get $75,000 a year. When you've taken out so many student loans, that doesn't really seem fair. So it only makes sense that they no longer want to work in retail and want to shift into industry. People with PharmDs in the industry can, start anywhere at $100,000, $120,000, $140,000 a year. And the earnings potential in regulatory affairs, medical affairs, clinical affairs is I feel like uncapped. Like you can, if you make it all the way up to VP, you can probably get anywhere around $500,000 with your full compensation package, maybe even more. So for people who don't have their doctorate, who are trying to enter in regulatory affairs, it's really gonna take a lot of persistence, and also you're just gonna have to be very creative and unique in how you acquire your roles. You're going to have to take those contract roles. You're possibly going to have to start in pharmacovigilance for 6 months and then shift. Or maybe you even start as a clinical research associate and shift into regulatory affairs after facilitating with your regulatory counsel on your clinical site, or in your company, you tell them that you're interested in regulatory and you maybe do a rotational in the regulatory department to learn about it as a clinical research associate. That's possible. You could also start in quality. Maybe you're in quality assurance or quality control, or you work in the lab. There are a lot of different segments that you could pivot into in order to break into regulatory. For me personally, I didn't really start to see this effect until the pandemic. I think there have always been people who have had their PharmDs trying to break into regulatory, but it's become so apparent now that everybody I speak to, or people within companies that I work, they all either have their PhDs, their PharmDs, even in like project management at pharmaceutical companies. A lot of people in project management have their PhDs, which makes absolutely no sense to me, because people in project management for pharmaceutical companies, they do nothing more than manage their teams to make sure timelines are met. And of course that's an important job, but it doesn't require a PharmD or a PhD. So you can kind of see where I'm going with overqualified people being in positions that they don't really need to be, taking away opportunities from people with their bachelors. Now, don't lose hope just because the industry is shifting and changing. I still think there is great opportunity for people to enter regulatory affairs, even if you don't have your doctorate degree. But it's just gonna take a little bit more persistence and resilience. And I know in my last video, I talked about how exhausted I personally am from the interview process, and I've been in regulatory for 5 years now. But I think you just have to find creative ways to enter the industry. I will repeat it as I've said it in all my videos. I started out as a pharmacy technician, and I fell into regulatory by accident. So if I can fall into it by accident, it's definitely possible for you to fall into it with intention. I hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope that people who are interested in entering regulatory affairs with the entry-level side understand that as the industry changes and shifts, you need to change and shift your strategy. So right now, it's very clear and apparent that PharmDs, PhDs, MPH, MSs, people with advanced degrees have a leg up in getting in regulatory, but that's in any industry at all. People with an advanced degree in the science space specifically will always have a leg up just because that they have that educational notoriety, so to speak. So as someone with a bachelor's degree, you need to be open to the contract roles, you need to be open to connecting with recruiters, and you need to be open to starting in a different department and pivoting to your end goal later. If you have any more questions about entering regulatory affairs, you can always visit careersavage.com and schedule a consult with me. Make sure you leave comments down below about any questions you might have. I love making videos that directly answer comments. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Stay tuned for my next video, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Bye.